Tables are no longer used to lay out a website, but they still have a purpose. In this chapter, we'll learn how best to use them. Besides, they can be styled with CSS. Let's look how we can do that now. Now that we've taken a look at CSS, we can take a look at tables and designing and making them accessible. So let's change our chapter files to the next chapter. So we'll go to our Files panel and I'll choose Manage Sites. I'm just going to click on Edit since I already have it up here, or else you could click on New and we'd end up in the exact same place. I'm going to change that to 8, and I can either browse or I can change that to 8, and I can click OK. It's going to recreate the cache, and now I can say Done. Alright. So let's start with taking a look at tables themselves. So there's a page already in the site called tables.html. Go ahead and open that up. And we see that we've got a blank page. So there's plenty of different places that we can go to add tables into our site. If I take a look at my Insert panel, if I take a look at the Common area, I've got hyperlinks and email links and a table here. I have images and date and scripts and templates, and I also have layout and forms and data and spry and favorites. And even if I take a look at the layout area here, I can insert a div, same thing with my common area, and I scroll down here enough, I can even insert a table. Then I can also go up to my insert and choose a table from here. So let's just go ahead and do that. And I see that I've got a table. We can choose how many rows and how many columns, and let's just do our 3. Let's leave our table at 500 pixels. Notice that we can also do %. I get to choose my border thickness, my padding, and my cell spacing. Now with my padding and my spacing, remember we've already taken a look at our box model, so our table is a whole lot like our box model, where I have padding on the inside and I have a margin, or in this case our cell spacing, on the outside of our cell. I have a header area that I can choose a left header, a top header, or both. The sections here and underneath can also be used for accessibility and styling for my table. So for instance, when I put a header in, I get, instead of a TD tag, we get a TH tag. And with my accessibility, I have a caption and a summary. So when I have a screen reader and somebody who can't read the page visually, then they're going to get a caption of what that table is about and a summary of what information is in that table, which is very helpful. So we're just going to put OK for now. We'll look at accessibility in just a little bit. Okay, so now I have my table on my page. And let me make sure I select it again here. I kind of clicked off of it. So I can give my table an ID. I can say how many rows and how many columns I have. I see that I've got a 500 pixel, that I didn't put any cell padding or any cell spacing in it. I have a border, and I also have some regular alignment. Now this alignment all goes in my code, so I have to be aware of what's in my code and what I could actually style through CSS, and I could align my table through CSS. I could also apply a class style to my table as well. Now in the lower section of my property inspector, I see several other buttons where I can clear column width, I can convert my table widths to pixels, I can convert them to %, and I can clear my row heights. Now right now I don't have the visibility on to show the table width itself. So if I go up underneath my eyeball up here in the top part of my window, and I choose table widths, then I can also see where I can select a table, clear all heights, make all widths consistent, or hide a table width. And on the columns themselves, I can clear a column, insert a column to the left and to the right. And that is very, very handy, and that's certainly an easy way to work with tables. Now, if I take a look at the table itself, and I put my cursor exactly to the left of my table, I get a black arrow. that black arrow is going to show me that I can select that whole entire row at one time. And now if I take a look at my property inspector, I see that I'm able to merge those cells using spans. So when I merge those cells, I'm going to end up with a column span of 3. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's split our window so we can take a look at our code. And indeed, I have now a table. We scroll down so I can actually see it. My beginning table tag, my end table tag. I have my first table row, and it has a non-breaking space in it, but it has a column span of 3. Notice that all of my table cells have a non-breaking space in them, because on certain browsers, if there is not anything in that particular cell, then it will collapse. When it collapses, it kind of looks like it's being filled up. So it will definitely look different than the rest of the cells, and we don't want that. So to keep things consistent, and even if you don't have something in a particular cell, then there's a non-breaking space to make sure that it doesn't collapse. So let me move this over just a little bit again. And if I put my cursor in my cell here, and I drag down a little bit, and if I right-click, I see my contextual menu for my table. So I can select my table, I can merge my cells, I can insert my row and column and rows or columns here, which is kind of interesting because here I'm able to insert a row or a column and any number of them at a time above or below the selection I happen to be in. So I'm going to click OK. And if I select all those and I go ahead and merge those using my spans, then for that particular column now, I have a row span of 3. So that one, from here on out then, so I see my table row and I only see my 2 other cells in it because I no longer have 3. Because I have a row span of 3 for that one. Now if I like using keyboard shortcuts, on the Mac it is Command M, and on the PC it's Control M. So we'll just click Control M since I'm on the PC. And now I have a new row directly above where I'm at. So we need to make sure and be aware of when we add it through our keyboard shortcut that it's just going to add it above where we happen to be at. Now if I type something in here, and I'll just type text, and when I go to another cell, you'll notice that everything pushes apart. Now this is just part of a table because we don't have anything holding anything open with a table. So that's the great thing about using CSS also as opposed to a table. This is one reason why we don't use tables to lay out a page any longer, besides the fact that I get a fair amount of HTML with a table. Because sometimes people end up getting tables inside of another table, and honestly that just creates an awful lot of code on the page itself. Now remember, content loads before anything else does, so we want to be aware of how much code we actually have in our HTML on the page itself, what we call the client side, so what's actually being loaded when they've clicked on the page. So that's the part that's going to be loading first. So we want to make sure that it's nice and clean as much as possible with the code.